Welcome to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a middle-aged menopausal mom. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, a person who has been mostly happily married for the last 24 years, a supporter of personal growth, which is something we're going to talk about today, and an advocate for talking about the stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Another thing we're going to talk about today. Today's conversation is a good one. I have an amazing guest here today. We are having a conversation about something that is long overdue. It's men and menopause. You heard that right. A man, Jesse Robertson, who's to my left, but probably your right by the whoever's looking at this, is talking about menopause openly. He's not just talking about it, he's listening, he is learning, and he is leading other husbands and partners to do the same. Jesse is a husband and a father who launched a TikTok channel earlier this year on Valentine's Day, no less. We're going to talk about that too. With one simple message: more husbands would support their wives if they only understood a little about menopause. Since then, his content has exploded. He has been featured on People.com, USA Today, and Good Morning America. And one of our favorites, Dr. Mary Claire Haver, follows him and shares his stuff. And if she's reposting his videos, you know that it is worthwhile of a listen. So let's dive into a conversation that every supportive man and male partner needs to hear about menopause. Jesse Robertson, welcome to Why Am I Yelling?
Thank you so much, Krista. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. I found you scrolling on the Instagram, probably in one of my, middle of the night non-sleeping times, which usually happens around 3 a.m. in my house. And I was like, oh, this is really great content. And it's stuff that it seems so simple, and yet nobody wants to talk about it, right? And I know I've had the conversations with my husband because I don't shut up about things, and he likes to learn about a lot of things. But I want to know what inspired you to start this, and why Valentine's Day? Was that by choice?
Yeah, what's interesting is I actually had to look back and see when I started and I
Okay.
realized it was on Valentine's Day and I was like and then I had to try to rack my brain. I was like, was there something going on? Did I promise my wife that I would learn something new for Valentine's Day? But no, I think it just worked out that way. But the truth is, I started because of who you mentioned earlier, Dr. Mary Claire Haver. She
Yeah,
was on a podcast. I'm a armchairy myself. I'm a fan of the Armchair Expert podcast. So I was listening to that on my way home from work, and she was the guest. And I admittedly had not heard of her, nor could I have really told you the first thing about menopause at the time.
sure, sure.
But this was, so I think this was maybe in March.
Okay,
And to back up a bit, I had started this TikTok channel, but it wasn't this channel. It was actually called The Parent Express, and the channel was really about parenting and me
okay.
sort of expressing what am I dealing with as a husband, as a man, as a father. And it had gotten a little bit of following, and I was enjoying doing it.
Sure.
And then we have this day where I'm driving home from work, and Dr. Haver's the guest. And I think I just didn't bother to change the channel, right? Like I
Right.
hadn't heard of her, and I probably, I'm so obviously grateful that I didn't, but I'm just cruising along, sitting in some traffic, and she starts talking, and I don't know how to really explain this, Krista, but something changed in me, like
Yeah.
something flipped, and it was within 5 minutes, and it was. I think I was thinking about my wife. I was thinking about my 14-year-old daughter. I
Yeah.
was thinking about what she was saying about what women are going through. I couldn't believe, I think, that there was this thing out
Yeah.
there that is affecting a billion women, certainly
Sure.
my wife. Um, I'm a 48-year-old man. I've been married 18 years. I've never had a single conversation with a man or my wife or anyone about this, let alone even heard any piece of content whatsoever about
Right.
it. And I
Right.
think all that just hit me at once. And I real and I decided I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went to bed that night thinking about it. I woke up in the morning thinking about it. And the next day I took my phone out and I very sheepishly said, "Do women want their husbands to learn about menopause?" And I thought, okay, well, this is the end of me on social media. I'm gonna just get roasted for this. And the exact opposite happened.
Yeah.
comments came flooding in of yes, absolutely, we are struggling, we are suffering, we don't have the support we need, there's not enough awareness, my
Yep.
husband doesn't understand this. And that was it for me. It
Yeah.
became it just from there on out. I changed the name of my channel, and it was the only thing I ever. It was the only thing I wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
and it's the only thing that I have talked about. So it's been a wild journey.
I think that is really admirable. And I you don't really like women. I was talking to a friend yesterday who is in her mid 30s, and she's asking me about having babies and kids and all the things. And she's like, women's bodies, literally from the time we are teenagers, are our havoc is wreaked upon us for literally our entire lives between menstrual cycles and having babies and menopause and all the things. It's like we don't get our bodies don't get a break. And nobody understands that. You don't understand that unless you're a woman or unless you're a man who is taking the time to understand what is actually happening. And as we're going through it, we don't understand it ourselves, right? So, what have you learned and what has been the most, I guess, eye-opening thing for you so far in this educational journey that you're on?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, what have I learned?
All the things.
Everything. Everything is what because I started obviously at zero, and there are some things that I've learned that definitely stand out more than others, and
Sure.
and have really blown my mind. I would say. I think one of the things that really stood out to me right off the bat was how is it that women don't know everything there is to know about this? That was my initial. That was an initial thought, right? As a
Great question.
naive man, sort of not understanding really a lot of, and what I came to understand was a little bit more around the history of that
Yeah.
fact, right? But to me, initially, it was this real black and white, like, oh, this thing sounds terrible. Why don't you all talk about it? What's the problem? Or this sounds terrible. Why don't you go to the doctor and deal with it, right? Like, I mean, those are the initial thoughts that I find today still when I'm talking to husbands that is the way they think also, right? Like
Sure.
we're all
Sure.
starting from this kind of naive place, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember walking into my kitchen and going, and my wife was standing there, and I had just, I mean, this is, day one type of
Day
stuff,
one.
right?
Right. Right.
And I literally walked in and I go, honey, do you know that doctors weren't trained to support women on menopause? And
And then she
she
punched you. No.
yeah, right. And she gave me this look like that's adorable,
Right.
right? Like that
Right.
that that you don't
Oh,
know
how
that.
cute.
Like
Right.
right. And it was kind of like, well, welcome. Welcome. We've
Right.
all been here for a while.
Yeah.
Nice of you to show up, right?
Right.
So and but what actually stuck with me in that conversation, even more than sort of her reaction, because I think I walked in thinking that she was gonna be like, really? But
Tell me more.
yeah, I know. Like, what else do you know? Teach me. But that's obviously not the case. And it's also why I'm careful to only talk to husbands in my social media. I do not direct my
That's so
content at
interesting.
women.
Okay.
But
That's fair.
um, but that being said, she's at the end of that, without really missing a beat after I said that, and after she was like, okay, great, yes, I know that. Go learn
Right.
more. And she goes, real quick though, who do you think made the decision on what should be studied in the medical system? And I was like,
Mm,
oh. And that
right.
that
Right.
and so then I did a little bit of homework on that and I
Yeah.
started to understand about how the National Institute of Health shut down studies in the 70s,
Right.
widespread, of course, on women of a reproductive age, which is like really young. So it's
Ah,
basically all
yes.
women. So
Yes.
and then didn't even kick it back into gear until I think 1993.
Right.
And so then I started doing the math of, oh, okay, so if I'm a doctor today that a woman of a menopausal, perimenopausal age would go
Yep.
see,
Yep.
when was that doctor likely 20 something years old, right? When were
Right.
they likely
Right.
in, and well, and it's probably within about 10 years of when widespread studies even began on women again. And
Sure.
these studies take time,
Yeah.
and so you sort of back it up and you go, okay, well, I'm not going to blame doctors. It's not like doctors got the option to learn about this and they decided I don't want to know.
Right.
They just didn't get the option. It just
Right.
wasn't talked about because
Yeah.
there weren't the studies to support it. So anyway, these are some of the types of things that I've started to understand. And I actually, when I talk to men, I initially my focus was really around symptoms. Hey, do you know about a frozen shoulder? Do you know that
Sure.
this is more than hot flashes and mood swings? Do you know how brain fog and insomnia and all of
Right.
those types of things? And today I still do that, but I'm also trying to focus now on helping men understand the context in
Sure.
which women are dealing with these things, right? Because
Yep.
it's one thing to know, like, okay, I got it. A hot flash is really difficult. It feels like burning lava is bursting out of her chest. Her skin can raise 2 degrees. It's going to cause her to stay up. It's going to cause anxiety. It's going to cause heart palpitations. But the problem is if that whole conversation stays contained only into the hot flash and
Right.
doesn't lead into, well, what are the ancillary effects of
Sure.
all
What
that the
happens?
next
Yeah.
day or the
Yeah.
week after that or 2 months after that? What happens when that same thing happens when she's giving a presentation at work
Yep.
or any of that? It's helping men understand. And beyond that, it's not just those things, but it's also, what is going on in a woman's life at this
Yep.
age.
Yep.
And it's a lot. So
There's a
it's
lot.
really understanding the context around this as much as it is understanding the thing itself.
Right. And I think, I want to go back to two things with that. I want to know how your wife reacted when you decided you wanted to do this,
Mm,
right? Because I mean, so let's answer that. What was her,
sure.
is she supportive? What was her reaction when you were like,
I,
I
I
want to
I
do this?
I think that she didn't take it real seriously for a while,
Okay.
right? I think
Valid.
I she didn't not want me to do it,
Right.
and she didn't try to talk me out of anything, and she didn't say don't do it. I mean, she was supportive, but basically she took kind of a I'm going to be over here in the bleachers,
Right.
and I'll
Right.
I'll I'll watch you try to play this game, and let's just see what happens,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And then as things started to pick up, and I think she started to become more involved and more supportive and more
Yep.
and then she'd start sending me information and then she'd be telling her friends about it and it now like I used to sneak out into the driveway to make a recording. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
In the
even, I
car.
don't
I
even
love
want,
it.
yeah, in the
Right.
car. Like, I don't even want to say that I'm doing this because what she'll probably do is be like, really, you're gonna go sit out there and do that? Like, I could use your help over here,
Yeah.
right? So, but now she's like, yeah, I get it. Go,
Right. Go
right,
buckle
go,
up.
go do
Right.
your thing. Go do your thing. So,
That's awesome. And I think for a lot of people, if you have a supportive partner, right, it's you can talk about these things and you don't have to feel embarrassed or uneducated, right? You say that about,
hmm
having access to the education. Even our doctors, our trained professionals didn't
right.
have access to a lot of that education, right? And I know from my experience, and I say this all the time, my gynecologist, who is a little bit older than me, didn't really understand it until she was going through it. Right.
hmm
So she was like, hold on. Because I would say, oh, I feel like I don't really have a lot of this or a lot of that. And she's like, we're just going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. And then last year she was like, what do you want? Like, I'll give you all the things because she's going through it now
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
And, I think that's super important. But I think, acknowledging that is something that is sorely lacking out there and
hmm
only having a small pool of, you know, data and doctors who are willing to have these loud conversations, Mary Claire
Sure.
being one of them, right?
Yep.
I think it's great that there's somebody who's willing to, I mean, you're not a trained professional in menopause, but you are stepping into it and being an advocate for your wife and other women in your life. Your daughter, you have a daughter, she's going to go through this at some point in her
hmm
life, right? Um, what do you think men get wrong about it other than just not really understand, like they don't understand it, but like
Sure.
what's the next step that kind of maybe not surprises you but you feel like is like, that's kind of wrong, we've gotten that wrong?
Men think that she can fix it.
Okay.
And it's because men think that everything is fixable. And they think what are we missing, right? There's got to be an answer to this. What do you
Sure.
mean you can't just go take a pill to make this go away? Or
Right.
what do you mean that you can't control your behavior, right? Or what do you mean you don't want to have sex right now? Right? Like
Right. Right.
it's the lack of understanding of those things individually, but it's also it's a perspective that I think it's drilled into guys, right? Which is if something's hard, you should be able to deal with it. If
Right.
something's hard, you should be able to persevere through it. If something's hard, you should go fix it, right? Find a solution, figure it out.
Sure.
And I think that men don't understand the actual biology and the physiology,
Right.
the true changing of the body and the mind
Yeah.
that is
Yep.
happening from the loss of estrogen and testosterone and progesterone. I, because it really is, while you can make the argument that men lose testosterone or there's
Yeah. Sure.
which it's not an argument, it's a fact,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like, yeah, and andropause is also a fact. But I think that it's really not about that. I think that that can actually be kind of a distraction. Men can say, we lose test, we have low T, we have andropause, we do all the same things they do. And rather than going down that road, which I try to just avoid entirely,
Yeah.
because it's not going
It
to be
turns into a different
productive.
conversation. Right.
It's more like you just need to imagine or put yourself, and I do lean a little bit into love here, right? Like
Yeah.
if you love and care about your wife, I shouldn't have to convince you this hard
Yeah.
that these things are happening, right? Like it, and neither should she, by the
Right.
way,
Right.
which is actually where this conversation, I shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a guy that has to explain to guys what
Right.
menopause is like
Bro,
because
this is
every
what's
one
going
of
on.
those guys was supposed to be listening to their wife.
Right.
But because that's not happening, I'm doing my best to help out, right?
Yeah.
And um, so I think that men need to really just try to be more vulnerable. They need to be more compassionate. They need to sort of let themselves go in a way. They need to listen and they need to
Yeah.
believe their wife. They need to accept that it's okay that they can't relate to this. It's
Yeah.
okay
Yep.
that they don't understand it. You don't this we're not in a courtroom. I'm not
Right.
trying to
Right.
convince you that menopause is real. I
Right.
Your wife is hurting right now,
Yeah.
right? She's hurting. She's hurting physically, she's hurting mentally.
Yeah.
What more do you need to understand? And that's sort of where we try to put the conversation.
Well, so now I'm interested in pushback.
Mhm.
Like, what kind of pushback do you receive from those kind of statements,
The
if
the the
any?
push the pushback that I receive from those types of statements can range from everything from okay, but right, and
Yeah.
then
Right.
they try to throw a little bit of their own sauce
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fine because it's like, listen, if you're willing to hear this, but you feel like you don't have enough information, or maybe you just didn't hear it quite the way you need to understand it,
Yeah.
I'll work with that.
Yeah.
Where I struggle is with the guys who say this isn't real. It's not
Right.
it's not real,
Right.
right? Like we're talking some real sort of flat earth type of stuff here, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like you're telling me that this just a billion women got together and decided to come up with a story.
Let me
It's
tell you, there's
like
much better stories that we would come up with. Trust me.
right? Or it's just like women all of a sudden decided they're not interested in
Right.
intimacy. Like, what are
Right.
you talking about?
Right.
Or she doesn't want to strap her bra fully behind her back with her frozen shoulder. She just
Yeah.
it would be better if she didn't. Like, I don't know. So those guys, like, here's the thing, Krista. Like, I've come to understand that there is a piece of the male population that I will never change,
For
that I
sure.
will never reach.
Yep.
And I also have to kind of be okay with that,
Yeah.
right? But what I do believe is that there are so many more men out there, so many more men
Yeah.
out there like me who would want to support their wives through this if they only understood anything about it.
Yeah.
And those men, so the reactions that I've seen from the men who aren't pushing back in this sort of she's making it up, it's an excuse, it's not real, or the men who are saying, she should just go take a pill and make it go away, or those types of things. The men who I am interested in talking to are the men who are saying, okay, I've seen this. Okay, I've seen some of what you're talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
they'll see one of my posts and they'll often DM me
Yeah.
because I get way more DMs from men than I do comments. So I
Oh,
think
I'm
sometimes
sure.
so I think sometimes in the comments, women will actually notice. They'll be like, feels like a lot of women in here,
Yes.
and I'll
Yeah.
always have to write back and be like, hey, don't worry, the
I'm
men are
talking to the guys
talking.
behind the scenes.
They
Right.
just don't
Right.
want you to
They don't.
know.
Yes. Yeah. Or
But
they're embarrassed, not embarrassed, but they're hesitant to
yeah,
step into it. Yeah.
yeah. So those men who I'm connecting with, I've had some really amazing experiences there where it's been, and I got to tell you, I did not come into this thinking I was going to feel a sense of bearing the weight that I
Right.
feel like my content bears today,
Yeah.
because I'm having both men and women saying that this has saved their marriage, that
That's
this has changed their
fascinating.
relationship. That I've men who are saying I used to be a total asshole to my wife, but after seeing your content, I'm a changed person. That's a certain type of weight
Yeah.
that I did
Yeah.
not expect, right? So, you mentioned when Dr. Haver started following me on Instagram and TikTok, that in and itself was a weight. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, oh,
Uh-oh.
she's watching. It was safer if she wasn't there, but no, of course I'm excited that she's there. But this idea that these comments are both incredibly fulfilling
Yeah.
and motivating, and they keep me going because it is a lot of work, but at the same time, it's a weight that I
Yeah.
feel like I carry now because I feel like this is meaningful in a real way that's impacting lives, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier about that. But it means like I can't just run out to the car and film some crap and throw it on there and check a
Right.
box and be like, Tuesday's post is done. Like,
Yeah.
I actually really have to care about what I'm saying.
Yeah. And, right. So there's research involved and there's
Yep.
conversations to be had and there's
Yep.
um all that stuff. And I think I think it's brilliant, right, that you're getting these messages from men saying, thank you for helping me change, or this helped me change my marriage, right? They didn't reach
Mhm.
out to you for help, but they found you and this is helping them, right? Has this changed your relationship with your
Yes.
wife in any way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
luckily I didn't have to make a massive transformation like some of the men
Yeah.
who have described theirs to me. But for me, it was what this has done is it's opened up just a total clean slate of vulnerability,
Yeah.
right? I remember early on learning about all of this, and this image flashed into my head of remembering rolling over in the middle of the night, totally bundled up, and then my wife has no covers on at all, no sheet, no,
No.
and
Don't
I'm
touch
and
and
I
don't touch me, by the way.
yeah, and I just remember, it was kind of one of those like 2 a.m. things. I remember looking at her strangely in the middle of the night, going, I can't really figure out what that's all about. But then I just went back to sleep and then kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Right. But so I've come back to some of those things, and it's allowed me to say that out loud to her of
Yeah.
like, oh, that's what else are you experiencing?
Yeah.
Um, I actually just recently did a post where there's always some amount of hair on, in the sink or in the
Everywhere.
shower or
Yep.
something like that. But I remember stepping out of the shower and she was at the sink, and I kind of like made this look where I looked down at what was definitely more hair on the shower floor than what I have seen
Right.
in the past. And I remember I kind of looked up at her without even saying a word, and she just looked at me and she goes, menopause.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this too,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I had to, so then of course I go running, into my little
Hair
research hole
loss.
to, to
Yeah.
go learn about that. and
Yeah.
and and so a lot of so it's allowed us, that would have been something I never would have brought up. I never would have said anything.
Yeah.
But and neither and she actually would have looked at me probably in more of a "what's your problem"
Right. It would
type
have
of
been a little bit
way.
more aggressive. Yeah.
But now she knows that she can say menopause out loud, and
Right.
I'll understand it
Yeah.
and have a new sense of compassion and sympathy for whatever it is that relates to at the moment. So that's really been a big change.
I love that. Because we're having this conversation and I'm remember like my husband we started probably having these conversations a few years ago. Um, yeah, and it was a lot of the no sleeping stuff. I've always been a bad sleeper, so that
Yeah.
kind of wasn't really alarming to anybody. Like I'm a light sleeper. I hear all the things. I have two kids. It's like all the things that creak in the night, I hear
Yep.
them. So that's not uncommon for me. It's the, you know, waking up and being awake for the whole time. It's not falling
Hmm.
back to sleep. And then your mind is going and you've got all these thoughts happening and now you're focusing on too many things and now you can't remember half the shit that you wanted to do in the first place. And um so we've been talking about this for a couple of years because I'm older than you are. But um you know, it's super helpful to have somebody who is willing to have that conversation with you, who's willing to listen. Like I remember when I was pregnant, he was the one who read all the baby books, like all the what to expect books. I was like, I'm not reading any of this. I'm not interested in knowing about if this happens, this is going to happen. And then we have to call the doctor and I'm not going to WebMD myself like, I'm not putting myself in that. So he would be like, well, this is what your symptom is, and this is what's causing that problem. And I'd be like, that's great. Well, you tell me, doctor, because I
Yeah.
don't want to know. Am I going to be fine? Is this kid going to be fine? Everything going to be fine? So I think that's kind of how he's approached the menopause piece.
Hmm.
Like, this could be this, and this could be that, and this could be the other thing. And I'm like, that's exactly what it is. And then I'll tell him, like, I forgot this, or this is going on, or I have so many things that I'm trying to keep in my brain. And I think for women, that's just a byproduct of who we are, right? Like we manage all the things. And I think for a lot of things, or a lot of generations, our partners, they just expected us to do that because that's how our moms taught us or their dads, or however it went. So I think, having this conversation about personal growth and change, like this is all part of it, right? We
Yeah.
are continually as adults growing and changing. And if you, uh, you know, somebody joked, I was watching something about menopause the other day and I don't remember who it was, but it was a guy and he was saying, you know guys tend to drop out of the relationship in menopausal years because it's a lot, right? There's a lot of
Sure.
stuff that goes on in your relationship and all that stuff, and they think they're going to get a better model, a younger model or
Right.
whatever. But guess
Yeah.
what? That model is going to go through the same thing
Yeah.
in 10 years, right?
That may
So
have, that may have been my post, by the
it
way.
might have been, it
It
might have been
sounds
because I
it
see
sounds
stuff
like
like
a
this
lot like
all the
it.
time.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a really great point because it's like the grass is not always greener, dude.
Yeah.
And you have stuff to work on too. So it would be really
Mhm.
great if we could work on this together.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about meaningful feedback. What is some of the most meaningful feedback you've gotten from men and women as you've been going through this the last several months?
One thing that sticks in my head that came in real hot was was um, I did a post, and this is I can give you an answer around menopause, but this was also because of this whole
Sure. Yeah.
conversation anyway. Um, I did a post where I think I said something like, gosh, what was it? It probably started something like, "Why don't women ask for help?"
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
And yeah, and trust me, it got worse.
Landed
I,
flat.
I said something to the effect of, "My wife, just walked into the room, and I was watching TV." And I could tell that she was stressed out. And then she started rattling off all these things she needs to go do that she doesn't have time to do. And I easily could have done some of those things. And so I was like, do you want me to do some of those things? And she then, said yes. And then she explained to me what those things are and what needs to be done. And then
Right.
I went and did them. And now I'm a hero. And why wouldn't she have just asked me for help in the first place? And well, I got my answer from about 1,456 women
Wow.
that basically said, if you ask us if we need help, us having to tell you what we need help with is just one more thing that we have to do.
Yeah.
And that was a real aha moment, which again came from a place of just not getting it,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and I think what one of the things when I talk to husbands, especially ones that might come back and be a little bit, negative,
Yeah.
uh, I go, look, there's no difference between me and you as far as
Right.
like I didn't go to school for this. I don't have a superpower.
Right.
The only difference between me and you is that I'm willing to learn it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like I started at the exact same place you're at, man.
Right.
I didn't know anything either.
Right.
You are just trying to fight this,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to accept this.
Yeah.
That's the difference,
Yeah.
right? So anyway,
That's good.
that was one of the big
That's good.
kind of aha, sort of learnings or
Yeah.
moments I
Yeah.
remember.
It's funny you say that because my favorite four-letter word is help. And I didn't learn that until I was in my early 40s.
Sure.
Um, and I think that women don't often like to ask for help because we don't ask, we just jump in, right? It's like I
Yep.
don't ever ask anybody if they need help. I just jump in when I see somebody that has 10 bags on their shoulders
Yep.
or is running around with three kids and is trying to wrangle or doing like whatever it is, right? Women tend to just jump in without asking their friends or their husbands or their kids if they need help. They just do it. And that doesn't happen for us, right? I can literally bring five things of groceries into the house, and every one of my boys will look at me and just watch it go by until I say something like, get off your asses and
Yep.
get the stuff out of the car. And then
Yep.
everybody's like, oh, yeah, right. Yes, right. Thanks for the reminder, right?
Right.
Um, so I think that's part of it in that help piece. And I'm sure you heard 1,400 and however 96
Yeah.
iterations of me telling you this also.
Yeah.
But I think, that's also a big difference between men and women. It's like women just tend to jump in and men they feel like they need to be told. And I think a lot of that comes from they don't want to mess up the system or they don't want to this or they don't want to that. And I think as women tend to be more controlling, but also as we get older, we kind of let that stuff go because it's like, I don't have time to worry about if every single hair is in place all the time or if, the beds are made. I mean, the beds are made, but all the things just jump in. And if it's done half-assed, it's better than not being done
Well,
kind
and
of
that's
thing.
the beauty of the "We Do Not Care" movement, right?
Yeah.
From Melanie, right?
Melanie.
It's
Yep.
it's it's recognizing and kind of naming this reality
Yeah.
that women will get to, and deservedly so, because just like you said, there's kind of been this conditioning of, and similar to how I was talking earlier on about as a man, that you're sort of conditioned to figure it out, get through
Yeah.
it, deal with it,
Yep.
fix it, right? Women have this same sort of conditioning, except it's sort of take care of everything.
Right.
Don't seek help.
Right.
You should just do.
Right.
And women who have been, and this is such a key point to men, which is whether or not you realize this, and you don't, most likely, your wife has been caring for everything and everyone around her for all of these years.
Yep.
And now this is wreaking havoc on her body, physically and mentally. And something has got to give.
Yep.
And what's going to give is actually not going to be her personal health and well being. What's going to give is you now need to cook dinner a little bit.
Right.
You need to do some laundry.
Yeah.
You know how to work a vacuum. You know where the grocery store is.
Yeah.
You know how to make the kids breakfast. Like all of these things, or pick the kids up from school, or take them
Right.
to an appointment, or make an appointment.
Yeah.
And the all of the things that, but these are just some of the obvious things around the house that men
Yeah.
can see with their eyes, right?
Right.
What men really have to understand is everything that she's carrying that they don't see
Right.
that she's doing. And it's not just the mental load of
No.
things like grief or anxiety or depression or insomnia or brain fog or memory loss or any of these other things that are a part of menopause. It's also, when was the last time you handled a school email?
Right.
Or, when was the last time, you went into your kid's room in the middle of the night to lay down with them, which cost you your sleep,
Right.
but you did it anyway,
Right.
right? These are the types of things that I think, it's one thing to say, oh, go do your laundry. Fine.
Right.
These other things
Right.
are, and that's why, one of Melanie's, of all the things that she said, which are so
Hilarious. So good.
genius. I remember one I watched where she goes, we do not care if our prescription is ready. We will get it when we are ready.
Right.
It's just like,
Right.
but that is so great because it's not, it speaks to a frame of mind,
Yeah.
right? And again, this comes back to, as a man, you can either choose to fight this or you can choose to be a part of this.
Right.
But
Embrace it.
this is happening
Right.
with or without you. And
Yes.
for over 60% of couples between the ages of 40 and 60, it ends up being
Yes.
without
Correct. Yeah.
because of this.
Yeah. Yes. There have been several conversations among my peer group, about the strain that it takes on a relationship and being able to have these conversations. And like you say, there are people that are more willing and available to want to have those conversations, and then there are people that don't. Right? So hopefully these kinds of conversations that we're having and other, menopause experts or advocates
Right.
are opening, doors and minds and conversations to have it be like, this is something that it's never going away, right? We are getting smarter about it, right? Where there's more data and there's more studies and there's, more women willing to stand up and talk about their symptoms and what they're going through, because not everybody goes through the same stuff, right? So I could be having these 5 or 10 symptoms, and I could have a friend who doesn't have any of them but has these 10, right? So it's like
Hmm.
it's so vast and so big that it's not a one size fits all.
Right.
And I think, a lot of people don't recognize that either, because you
Absolutely.
think menopause, hot flashes, you know not
Mood
sleeping,
swings.
right?
Yeah.
Brain fog, all the things, right? But they don't think about all the other stuff that comes along with it. So that, I think, is really great that you're willing to talk about all of it.
Well, and that's
um
been a big piece of what when you think about the women, I've got over 120 something thousand comments on
yeah,
my TikTok channel alone.
that's great.
That's tens of thousands of women
Yeah.
who are large, because there's men in there too, but tens of thousands of women who are sharing their experiences.
Yep.
They're sharing what they're going through. They're sharing their pain points. They're sharing their perspectives. They're even sharing what's working for them.
Yeah,
But it's become, of all the research that I do, the best database I have is the comments
for
of
sure.
my videos themselves because it's the real
Yeah.
deal, right?
Yeah.
It's not, and I've read Dr. Haver's book.
Yeah.
And and so I'll do that too because
Right.
I'm deep in it. But for the average man, I
Yeah.
just challenge you, like, go into any video you want
Right.
and read the
Read the
comments.
comments.
And
Yep.
if that doesn't affect you, and if that doesn't make you think about what your wife is going through, then I don't know what to tell you.
You're out. You're dead in the water, dude.
You got
I
other
don't know.
problems. You got other problems beyond menopause.
So good. But I think that's great, right? Because you're taking personal experience from other people. It's not just these 20 women were in this study and that's what this said, right?
Right.
It's Susie from Alabama and Jessica from Jacksonville and, Vanessa from New York City and whoever else is chiming in on your stuff. And it's probably people from all over the world, right? So
Yeah.
you're getting a, a very large pool of people who
Mm-hmm.
are having these experiences and they're willing to share them with you. And I think that that is a great thing because it gives you, well, more content creation and information, right? And ideas.
Sure.
But also, you know, more education.
100%.
What's better than that? What have we missed that you really want to touch on, if anything?
I think it's important for men to understand that you don't need to be an expert in this,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm doing and how much I'm involved in this is a personal passion for me.
Right.
But I don't have that same expectation for other guys,
Yeah.
right? And just do two things, right? Number one, first and foremost, above all else, listen to your wife and believe what she's telling you
Right.
because that's really what you need to understand. You don't need to, as the average husband, to understand menopause on a global scale. You
No.
don't need to understand all 70 categorized
Right.
symptoms or whatever the number
Right.
is today,
Right.
because it feels like it changes all the
Changes every
time.
day. Yep.
You don't need to understand the difference between this and that. What you need to understand, number one, is what is your wife going through,
Right.
and what is it that you can do to make that easier? How can you support her? That's what you need to understand. And you can do that without opening a single book or
Yep.
even watching a single one of my posts.
Yep.
You can do that by simply sitting down and having an open, vulnerable conversation with your wife and listening to what she has to say about what she's going through. You can do that.
Yeah.
Or prior to doing that, you can take 5 minutes and watch, like, I mean, I always say
Yeah.
this, most of my posts are about 60 seconds long.
Right.
Take 5 minutes and watch any five you want. I don't
Right.
care which five.
Right.
That alone will give you a baseline understanding of kind of what we're dealing with. And
Right.
then you can take that baseline understanding, which is minimal, but it's enough, and then you can go have a conversation with your
Yeah.
wife and say, "Oh, yeah, I did hear a little bit about this idea of estrogen dropping and what that means for you." Or
Right.
I did actually learn a little bit about what a frozen shoulder is like and the three phases that it goes through.
Right.
And I did notice that your shoulder, like,
Yeah.
you can start there. But
Right.
I think that telling men you need to go, read books about this and
Yeah.
learn
No.
about it. And no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't
Right.
at all. You need to know a little bit about it, like you said in the intro, and then you need to listen and believe your wife,
Yeah.
and listen to and believe your wife. And if you can do those things, you're gonna be okay. And you're gonna be okay. If you don't do those things, either she suffers in silence and your
Yeah.
marriage survives, or she suffers in silence and your marriage doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. It's very, it seems easier. It's easier said than done, right? But I think you're right. Find some content and then use it as a conversation starter. Hey,
Right.
do you see this guy? Look at this
Right.
guy on Instagram. Pull up your Instagram, watch them, and then bring them to your wife and be like, oh my God, look at this guy. Look at what he's
There.
saying. Tell me
Yep.
about this. Is this
Yep.
true? Like, that's how easy it can be. It doesn't even have to be like, I was doing some research, right? It could be, what are you watching on TikTok? I just found this dude. Here's what I learned.
Minutes.
Yeah.
It could be
Yeah.
minutes, and
Minutes.
it's
Sure.
it's literally I've actually gotten some comments which are amazing from women who say that every time they see one of my posts, they sit down with their husband, they watch it together.
Oh, that's fun.
Isn't that cool? And
Yeah.
so, like, that type of thing is also happening. And actually, a funny story: a guy who I know, who didn't know I was doing this, came up to me and he goes, "Anything you want to tell me?" And I'm like, "About
Yep.
what?" And
Right.
he's like, "Well, my wife happens to be struggling with menopause, and my wife doesn't know who you are, and my wife came up to me with her phone last night and said, 'See what this guy's saying? This is what I have.'"
That's amazing.
And he looked at it and he goes, "That's my buddy Jesse."
That's Jesse from down the street. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
And so, but it would, it's obviously amazing that that she would take it, and so many
Yeah,
women have, and send it to their husband or give it to their husband or share it with their husband. And women have been the biggest advocates,
that's
right,
good. Yeah,
for this, and it's been so, I'm so grateful that so many women are really trying to help me get
yeah,
this where it needs to go,
yeah.
and they know that it's not going to get there on a direct flight. Like, we're going
Sure.
to lay over
Yeah,
with a couple women on the way
sure.
to a man
Yeah.
somewhere at the destination. And it's like, so, but it gets
Okay.
there
Yeah,
because they're literally saying, "I sent this to my husband. I sent this to my husband." But some just, it ends there, but
yeah.
others say, "I sent this to my husband and now he's watching them with me. I sent this to my husband and now he understands,"
Right. We talked about this. Right.
which is so incredible.
That's great. This is going to be our last question. Uh, like you just said, this is, potentially going like where do you see this going? What's next for the channels? Husbands for Menopause.
My goal is to try to find ways in which I can get this message as far and as wide as I possibly can. So that's been my
Yep.
motivation. I literally Googled, how do you get on networks? Like, I Googled, right, and then and it was like, oh, okay, and I have just, I don't know if it's no fear, or if it's because I was recently on Fox, in a morning show in Minneapolis,
Sure.
and it was live TV,
Yeah.
and I definitely had fear.
Oh yeah,
And,
that's not easy to do.
yeah, but I didn't have fear to ask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I sent out to networks, "Hey, I'm here and I want to spread this message." And then,
Yeah.
Fox got back to me, and
Yeah.
then Good Morning America got back to me, So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do that.
Okay.
And I don't really know what, I mean, I can't, it's one of those things you always hear, right? I could never
Right.
have imagined, but I mean,
No,
you
that's
really
true.
get
That's
into a
the
spot
truth.
like this
Yes.
and you can't actually ever have imagined.
Right.
I mean, if I had told anybody 6 months ago that I would be a menopause influencer for men, it they would have
So
just,
good.
I
I'm
mean, can you
writing that down.
imagine the looks that they would have given me? And so I don't know where it goes from here. But what I can tell you is that many of the other sort of passions that I have or hobbies that I have or the things that I would use my time on in my free time to do have all sort of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
And if I'm not making content on menopause, I am trying to learn about it. And I'm just going to carry that as far as it takes me.
Great. We love that. And we love more of it. So, Jesse Robertson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Menopause influencer for men. I'm stealing that, your quote. I'm stealing it. I'm going to tag you in this post with it. Um, keep doing all the good things and don't be a stranger. We would love to hear more from you. So, we'll be following you through this whole journey.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
And thanks for being a guest.
Well, thanks for having me, and I really appreciate the support, and I hope to see you again soon.
You got it.